Have you ever been knocked down by life, only to rise stronger and redefine what it means to belong? Get ready to dive into the raw, unfiltered journey of Lola Rivera, a story of humiliation, resilience, and the power of owning your voice. This isn't just a story, it's a rallying cry for anyone who's ever been made to feel less than who they truly are. Lola Rivera stood at the head of the conference room, a determined glimmer in her eyes despite the nervous tremor in her hands. The moment she began to speak, snickers and dismissive eye rolls rippled through the room. Before she could recover, her supervisor, Ms. Jennings, interrupted with a saccharine smile. "Lola, dear, it's pronounced, not, however you said it." Her reflection in the grimy window of a bustling subway station echoed back her uncertainty. The fluorescent lights above cast harsh, unforgiving shadows on her face, highlighting the worry lines that had etched themselves during these last trying months. Clutching her handwritten notes as if they were a lifeline, Lola's grip tightened on the crinkling paper. Just a year earlier, she had arrived in New York City with her young son, Mateo, carrying little more than dreams and an unyielding determination. Leaving behind a life filled with hardship in her native land of Guatemala, she had journeyed here, fueled by the promise of opportunity and a burning desire to become a motivational speaker. The screeching halt of the subway jolted her back to reality. Lola stepped onto the platform, her practical shoes clicking resolutely against the concrete as she navigated towards the exit. Although her role as a receptionist at Hamilton Pierce LLP, a prestigious law firm, was a far cry from her aspirations, she had taken the position out of sheer necessity, grateful for the steady paycheck that ensured a roof over Mateo's head. Entering the firm's gleaming lobby, Lola straightened her back and forced a smile as she greeted her coworkers with a cheery, "Good morning," only to be met with curt nods or outright indifference. Nearby, she overheard snippets of conversation from the break room. "Did you catch her mistake in that document yesterday?" one colleague sneered. "I nearly lost it when I heard her speak." The laughter that followed left Lola's cheeks burning with both shame and frustration. Every word she uttered, every interaction, was suddenly under a microscope, torn between the urge to assert her identity and the desperate need to blend in. As the morning wore on, Lola's anxiety grew. In just a few hours, she was scheduled to present her proposals for improving the firm's client communication strategy, a rare chance to demonstrate her skills and perhaps advance beyond her receptionist role. The conference room door loomed before her like a gateway to either validation or humiliation. With a deep, steadying breath, she squared her shoulders, smoothed her skirt, and stepped inside. Inside, Lola distributed handouts to her colleagues. The glossy paper, a symbol of her carefully planned ideas, was met with a low hum of murmurs as she took her place at the front. Clearing her throat softly, she began, "Good morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to present my ideas for enhancing our client communication process." Her voice, already soft from nerves, wavered as her accent became more pronounced. A few coworkers exchanged knowing glances, their lips twisting into smirks barely hidden behind polite facades. An attorney leaned toward his neighbor, whispering something that set off another round of stifled laughter. Lola had reached the pivotal moment in her presentation, a crucial point about implementing a new client feedback system, when Ms. Jennings's sharp tone cut through the air. "Lola, dear," she interjected, her voice dripping with feigned sweetness, "I believe you meant to say implement rather than your mispronunciation." The room erupted in laughter, a tidal wave that left Lola frozen, her face flushing with humiliation. Desperate, she searched for a friendly face among the crowd, but all she found were amused stares and awkward, downturned eyes. Unable to bear the shame any longer, Lola gathered her materials and fled the conference room. She burst into the women's restroom and locked herself in the farthest stall. Only then did she allow the tears to flow, her body shaking with silent sobs. As the first wave of raw emotion subsided, a hollow ache settled in her chest. Pressing her back against the cool, metallic wall, she closed her eyes. In that brief, painful moment, Lola wondered if she would ever truly belong in this new world. The dream that had carried her across borders now seemed to dissolve into wisps of smoke. Barely had her tears begun to dry when her phone vibrated relentlessly in her purse. Each buzz felt like a fresh cut, concerned coworkers now reaching out, though their words rang hollow. Unable to face more pity, she silenced her phone, determined to shield herself from further reminders of her ordeal. Alone in the cramped stall, Lola's mind raced, the present humiliation replayed with each remembered snicker and dismissive smirk. The hopes that had once propelled her across an ocean now felt impossibly distant. Yet, even as the weight of despair pressed in, a quiet determination began to stir within her. Lola remembered the bittersweet farewell to her family back home, the tearful, proud embraces of her parents, the hopeful yet anxious eyes of her mother, and Mateo's small, excited hand gripping hers as they boarded the plane. Each memory was a testament to the sacrifices she had made for a better life. Despite the searing pain of the present, she refused to let despair define her. The thought of giving up was unbearable, not for her sake, but for Mateo, who was just beginning to find his footing in a new school and community. She couldn't let her own struggles dim the bright potential shining in her son's eyes. With a deep, resolute breath, Lola wiped her tears, steadied herself, and unlocked the stall door. In the mirror, she saw red-rimmed eyes and slightly smudged makeup, yet also a glimmer of newfound determination. Touching up her appearance with careful strokes, she straightened her shoulders and practiced a small, professional smile. She would finish the day with dignity and grace, proving that no amount of cruelty could extinguish her spirit. Returning to her modest desk, Lola's hand trembled as she reached for an envelope bearing the official city seal. With another deep breath, she tore it open. Her eyes scanned the contents, and then, like a punch to the gut, she read the words, "Eviction notice." The rent was set to increase far beyond what she could afford on her modest salary. Panic surged as she realized that every dollar she earned was already stretched to its limit. Closing her eyes, she tried to steady her racing heart, the crushing weight of being a single immigrant mother in New York crashing over her like relentless waves. The guilt of her predicament intertwined with the memory of Mateo's bright smile, his hopeful eyes as he adapted to their tiny apartment. The thought of uprooting him or watching his joy diminish was unbearable. Lola considered every option, taking on a second job with night shifts or weekend work, or possibly moving to a cheaper, though less safe, neighborhood. Yet none of these alternatives offered a clear solution. As the day wore on, Lola found it increasingly difficult to focus on her tasks, her mind ceaselessly circling back to the eviction notice and the formidable obstacle it presented. The humiliation she had suffered earlier now seemed trivial compared to the very real threat of losing their home. By the time Lola left the office that evening, she had made a decision. She wouldn't burden Mateo with the harsh reality of their situation, not yet. He deserved a few more days of peace before the storm of potential upheaval could shatter their fragile stability. That night, as Lola tucked Mateo into bed and listened to him excitedly recount his day at school, his eyes shining with innocence and hope, she felt a deep ache in her heart. Gently kissing his forehead, she turned off the light, leaving the room in quiet darkness. In the silence of their small living room, surrounded by the few cherished possessions they had managed to keep, Lola allowed herself a moment of despair. The dreams that had carried her across borders and sustained her through countless hardships now crumbled like fragile sandcastles against the tide. Yet, amid that crushing despair, a soft, unexpected voice emerged as a lifeline. Mateo, with his tiny frame silhouetted in the doorway, shuffled into the living room. "Mama?" he asked softly, his voice tinged with concern. Lola hastily wiped away her tears and forced a smile, replying, "Yes, sweetheart, what are you doing up?" Mateo climbed onto the couch beside her, his warm presence a soothing balm in the cool darkness. "I heard you crying," he murmured, his eyes full of worry. Lola's heart clenched. She had always tried to shield him from her struggles, preserving his innocence. But in that moment, looking into his earnest, concerned eyes, her resolve wavered. With a shaky sigh, she pulled him close and whispered, "Mama just had a really hard day at work." Mateo nestled against her, his small hand gently patting her arm. "Did something bad happen?" he asked, his voice muffled against her shirt. Lola hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. But as she began to share the painful details, the harsh laughter, the relentless mockery of her accent, fresh tears began to stream down her cheeks. Mateo listened intently, his little brow furrowing as if trying to understand every word. After a long moment of silence, Mateo looked up with a wisdom beyond his years. "Mama, your voice is beautiful, it sounds like home," he said earnestly. Lola's breath caught in her throat, stunned by his simple yet profound statement. "But they laughed at me, Mama," she whispered, the pain still raw in her voice. Mateo shook his head firmly, his small face set in determined defiance. "They're wrong, Mama. Your accent tells your story. It's like a superpower." A surprised laugh escaped Lola as she realized the truth in his words. Mateo continued, his enthusiasm infectious, "It means you speak 2 languages, and that's amazing." In that tender moment, warmth bloomed in Lola's chest, chasing away some of the day's chill. Embracing Mateo tightly, she marveled at his innocence and insight. "You know what, sweetheart," she said softly. "Maybe I should record myself speaking, like those people on YouTube." Mateo's eyes lit up with excitement. "Yes. You can practice your presentations, and maybe others who sound like you will listen and feel better too." Stunned by the simplicity and power of his suggestion, Lola saw her own strength reflected in Mateo's eyes, the same resilience that had carried them so far. With a new spark of determination, she realized that running away would only reinforce the belief that she did not belong. Instead, she had to stay, to prove to herself and to Mateo that every sacrifice had meaning. With trembling fingers hovering over the record button on her phone, Lola summoned the courage to speak. The red light blinked to life, and after a brief pause, words began to form. "Hello, my name is Lola Rivera, and this is my story." Her accent, once a source of shame, emerged clearly, each syllable growing stronger with each passing moment. In that instant, Lola recounted her arduous journey from Guatemala to New York City, the dreams, the discrimination, the moments of painful humiliation, and transformed them into a narrative of strength and self-affirmation. At first, her voice wavered with hesitation, but as she continued, the flood of emotions gave way to a surge of empowerment. Every trial, every moment of ridicule, became a stepping stone toward reclaiming her identity. The pain of past humiliations melted into a fierce declaration of worth. Her accent was no longer something to hide, but a badge of honor, a testament to the journey she had undertaken. When the recording ended, Lola played it back, marveling at the strength resonating in her own voice. It wasn't perfect, but it was authentic. Before long, her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. The video, shared on her seldom-used social media account, began to spark a firestorm of reactions. Messages poured in, some supportive, others harsh, and while Lola's hand trembled at the thought of erasing this moment of vulnerability, she felt an undeniable pull to keep sharing her truth. That same night, as she sat on the worn couch reviewing the growing view count, a soft knock on the apartment door startled her. Opening it, she found her neighbor, Sonia, standing there with a warm, welcoming smile. Sonia's dark, curly hair bounced as she tilted her head, her concerned eyes meeting Lola's. "Everything okay, Lola? I heard your phone buzzing like crazy," she said in a melodious accent. Lola hesitated but then stepped aside, allowing Sonia into her modest living room. As they sat together, Lola recounted the story, the humiliating presentation, Mateo's tender encouragement, and the now viral video. "I don't know what to do, Sonia," Lola confessed in a trembling whisper, "maybe I should take it down before more people see it." Sonia's eyes widened as she scrolled through the comments on Lola's phone. Your story touched my heart. Thank you for being brave enough to share it, she read aloud, her voice laced with genuine admiration. I thought I was alone, but now I know I'm not. A torrent of conflicting emotions surged through Lola. Sonia's unwavering support and enthusiasm chipped away at her lingering doubts. With a mischievous glint in her eye, Sonia proposed, let's make another video right now. Before Lola could protest, Sonia had set up her phone on a makeshift stand, the camera pointed at both of them. With a deep breath, Lola pressed record once again. This time, the words came more naturally as she spoke not only of her fears but also of her dreams, of drawing strength from Mateo, her culture, and the unexpected kindness from strangers online. By the time they finished recording, Lola felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Sonia grinned, nudging her playfully. See? That wasn't so bad, was it? Sonia's infectious optimism ignited something within Lola. That very evening, as she adjusted the camera and steadied her trembling hands, she announced the birth of her new YouTube channel, Voices of Valor. With each new video, Lola shared motivational advice, practical language tips, and deeply personal stories of navigating life as an immigrant in America. Slowly but surely, her subscriber count began to rise. Supportive messages flooded in from viewers around the country and even across the globe, each person sharing their own story of struggle and triumph. For every hurtful comment that stung, dozens more words of encouragement bolstered her spirit. One evening, as Lola reviewed the analytics for her latest video while sitting at the small kitchen table, Mateo's small hand rested gently on her arm. His eyes shone with pride as he whispered, "Mama, you're changing the world." Overcome with emotion, Lola pulled him close. In that tender moment, she realized that Voices of Valor was more than just a channel, it was a platform for the voiceless, a community where diverse accents and experiences were celebrated, not ridiculed. However, even as Lola's online presence grew, whispers began circulating in the sterile halls of Hamilton Pierce LLP. The once invisible receptionist was now the subject of hushed office chatter. Colleagues who had once ignored her now stole curious glances in her direction, their expressions a mix of intrigue and something Lola couldn't quite decipher. The most jarring transformation came from Ms. Jennings, the very woman who had publicly humiliated Lola. One day, as Lola sat at her desk, Ms. Jennings approached with a saccharine smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Lola, I'm impressed with your videos." "Such initiative," she cooed. Lola mumbled a strained, "Thank you," her heart pounding with conflicting emotions. Was this sudden friendliness genuine admiration, or merely an opportunistic attempt to ride on Lola's newfound influence? The questions churned in her mind as she continued her work, trying desperately to ignore the palpable tension. Later that day, an email notification popped up on her computer, a message with a subject line that made her heart skip a beat, "Interview request, National News Network." With trembling fingers, Lola opened the email to find that a producer from one of the country's largest news networks was eager to feature her story on primetime television. They lauded her bravery in speaking out about workplace discrimination and the immigrant experience, calling her an inspiration to millions. The reality of the situation hit her like a tidal wave. Her voice, once silenced by shame, was about to be broadcast to an audience far larger than she had ever imagined. The following day, Lola found herself under the harsh glare of studio lights on a bustling television set. As she stepped onto the set, her palms began to sweat and her heart pounded in her ears. The polished news anchor, a poised woman with a reassuring smile, welcomed her warmly. "Welcome, Lola," the anchor said, her tone blending professionalism with friendliness. "We're thrilled to have you here to share your incredible journey." Despite the comforting words, Lola struggled to find her footing. Her accent, usually a proud marker of her heritage, felt thick and burdensome under the camera's unyielding scrutiny. The anchor encouraged her gently, "Take your time. Tell us about your journey." With a deep, steadying breath, Lola began to recount the painful events, the humiliation during that fateful presentation, the mocking laughter of her colleagues, and the sting of every mispronounced word. Her voice, at first hesitant, grew stronger with each recollection. "I worked so hard, prepared for weeks," she admitted, "but when I opened my mouth, all anyone could focus on was my accent." As Lola shared her experiences, the memories of every harsh laugh and hurtful comment surged back, only to be met with the anchor's supportive nods. "I never imagined that so many people would connect with my story," she confessed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I realized I wasn't alone, others had felt silenced, marginalized by the very thing that makes me unique." The conversation shifted as the anchor probed deeper into the issue of workplace discrimination. "How has your experience shaped your views on these challenges?" she asked. Lola paused, choosing her words with care. "Discrimination thrives in silence," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "By speaking out and embracing our identities, we force people to confront their biases and see the inherent humanity in each of us." With each word, her accent, once a target for ridicule, transformed into a symbol of authenticity and strength. When the interview wrapped, Lola's phone began to buzz non-stop with notifications. Offers for sponsorships, invitations to speak at conferences, and even a book deal started appearing in her inbox. Yet, amid this whirlwind of success, one email stood out, a message from Ms. Jennings congratulating her on her televised appearance. The overly sweet tone of the email felt hollow, a transparent attempt to align with Lola's newfound prominence. The next day at the firm, the atmosphere had shifted. Forced smiles greeted her from colleagues who once barely acknowledged her presence, and every step she took seemed to be under scrutiny. During lunch, Lola found refuge in a quiet corner, grappling with the duality of her situation. She had built her channel on raw honesty and vulnerability, yet now the very act of speaking out had become a double-edged sword, bringing both recognition and unwanted attention. With her phone open to the YouTube app, she contemplated her next move. Deep down, she knew that addressing the ongoing discrimination at work was a risk that could cost her dearly, but silence was no longer an option. That afternoon, gathering every ounce of courage, Lola pressed the record button once more. "Hello, everyone," she began, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. "Today, we need to talk about something difficult but incredibly important: workplace discrimination." The weight of her words was palpable as she recounted her personal experiences, outlining specific instances of bias and exclusion at Hamilton Pierce LLP. The video was a heartfelt call to action, a message to every immigrant who had ever felt marginalized and unheard. Later that day, as Lola walked through the law firm's lobby, the usual hum of activity fell to a hush. Heads turned, whispers followed her every step. A call from Janet in HR summoned her to a conference room. With a deep, steadying breath, Lola entered the room to find the firm's senior partners seated around a long table. Mr. Hamilton, the managing partner, gestured for her to take a seat. "Miss Rivera," he began carefully, "we've convened this meeting to discuss the video you posted. Are you aware of the potential damage it could cause to our firm's reputation?" Lola's heart pounded as she replied, "I understand your concerns, but I felt it was important to shed light on the discrimination that exists in our workplace." Her voice, now edged with resolve, detailed the specific incidents she had endured, each example a testament to the deep-seated biases that had plagued the firm. As some partners shifted uncomfortably and others listened intently, a sudden commotion outside the room caught their attention. Through the glass walls, Lola saw a group of colleagues holding signs in support of her cause. The sight renewed her determination. Creating a workplace where everyone feels valued isn't just a lofty ideal, Lola asserted, her chin held high, it's a necessity. "I'm here to fight for that, even if it means standing alone." After hours of debate, Mr. Hamilton finally spoke. "We have decided to launch a full internal investigation into our workplace practices, and we'd like you to lead the task force for this initiative." Relief and trepidation warred within Lola as she left the meeting. This decision was a step forward, but the real work was only beginning. Her phone buzzed abruptly. Reading the latest message, Lola's stomach sank. It was an official notice. Ms. Jennings's employment had been terminated, effective immediately. The news struck her like a physical blow. Despite all the pain Ms. Jennings had inflicted upon her, Lola had never wished for anyone's downfall. Yet, the revelation sparked a complex mix of emotions. As word spread through the office, the firm swiftly implemented new policies, mandatory diversity training, anonymous reporting systems, and a genuine push toward an inclusive work environment. Colleagues who had once ignored her now approached with apologies and heartfelt admiration, seeking her guidance in creating a more respectful workplace. Outside of work, Lola's story was igniting conversations nationwide. Emails, texts, and phone calls flooded in from people sharing their own experiences of discrimination and expressing gratitude for her bravery. Invitations to speak at law schools, corporate boardrooms, and diversity seminars began appearing in her inbox. Her life was transforming in ways she had never imagined, yet the journey was far from over. One evening, as Lola sat at her kitchen table reviewing the analytics for her latest video, Matteo gently touched her arm. His eyes sparkled with pride as he whispered, "Mama, you're changing the world." Overwhelmed with emotion, Lola pulled him into a tight embrace. In that tender moment, she realized that her small act of courage had blossomed into a movement, one that gave voice to those who had long been silenced. As Lola's influence grew, whispers from the law firm became louder. The very people who had once ridiculed her were now forced to confront the impact of their actions. Even as some colleagues expressed admiration, Lola couldn't shake the underlying tension of being under constant scrutiny. Every sideways glance, every hushed conversation reminded her of the personal cost of her bravery. One day, while working at her desk, she overheard a hushed exchange. "Her latest video is so powerful," one voice murmured, "but isn't she oversharing?" Her cheeks burned with conflicting emotions, a blend of pride in her achievements and discomfort at being the center of office gossip. The turning point came when Ms. Jennings, now removed from her position, sent yet another email congratulating Lola on her success. The overly saccharine tone was a stark reminder of the pain she had endured, but it also symbolized the profound transformation that had taken place. With a heavy heart, Lola resolved to continue her mission of shedding light on discrimination, even if it meant risking her job. That afternoon, after a long day at the firm, Lola decided it was time to address the issue head-on. With steady determination, she pressed record one final time. "Hello, everyone," she began, her voice calm yet resolute. "Today I want to speak about something that may cost me dearly: workplace discrimination." Her words resonated with passion and urgency as she recounted every instance of bias, every moment of ridicule. She spoke candidly about her struggles, and with each word, her accent, once a source of shame, transformed into a symbol of empowerment. As Lola posted the video, she felt the weight of her decision settle over her. The firm's atmosphere shifted perceptibly that day. Heads turned, whispers grew louder, and the tension was nearly palpable. Yet, even amidst the uncertainty, Lola knew that silence was no longer an option. Her voice, raw and unfiltered, had become a beacon for countless others who had suffered in silence. In the days that followed, the impact of Lola's words rippled outward. The firm initiated a sweeping review of its policies, and within weeks, mandatory diversity training and transparent grievance procedures were implemented. Colleagues began approaching Lola with apologies and newfound respect, many expressing deep regret for their previous behavior. Yet, the transformation was bittersweet. While the changes marked progress, Lola could not help but feel the sting of betrayal from those who had once mocked her. One crisp morning, as Lola walked through the transformed lobby of Hamilton Pierce LLP, her phone buzzed with yet another notification, a message from a national news network requesting an interview. The invitation was both exhilarating and terrifying. This was her chance to reach an even larger audience, to turn her personal pain into a rallying cry for systemic change. Despite her trepidation, Lola accepted the invitation, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. On the day of the interview, Lola stepped onto a brightly lit studio set. The air was thick with nerves as she faced the camera, her meticulously chosen outfit doing little to mask the tremble in her hands. The polished news anchor, a beacon of professionalism, greeted her warmly, "Welcome, Lola. We're honored to have you share your incredible journey with us today." The lights bore down on her as she took a deep breath and began to speak. "I once felt that my accent was a curse," Lola admitted, her voice steadying as memories of past humiliations surfaced. "I spent years trying to erase the very thing that connects me to my heritage. But today, I stand before you, proud of who I am." With each word, she recounted the painful moments, the condescending corrections, the laughter that had cut so deep, and the gradual transformation that led her to create Voices of Valor. Her message resonated not only with the viewers but with her colleagues back at the firm. As the interview concluded, the anchor leaned forward with sincere admiration. "Your story is an inspiration, Lola," she said. "By embracing your identity, you've empowered so many who felt voiceless." The praise was overwhelming, and as Lola left the studio, her phone buzzed incessantly with congratulatory messages and further interview requests. Yet, amid the accolades and newfound influence, Lola couldn't shake the lingering uncertainty. Back at the firm, the dynamics had shifted once again. Forced smiles greeted her in the hallways, and every glance felt heavy with unspoken judgment. One afternoon, while leaving the office, Lola's phone buzzed with a message that made her heart sink, a notification that her beloved supervisor, Ms. Jennings, had been quietly replaced. The news was a stark reminder of the tumultuous path she had walked, one filled with both personal victories and bitter losses. The transformation within the firm was dramatic. What had once been a cold, unwelcoming environment was slowly morphing into a space of dialogue and accountability. Encouraged by the support from unexpected corners, Lola began hosting workshops and training sessions on embracing one's identity and dismantling systemic discrimination. These sessions, held in modest community centers and sometimes even in the firm's own conference rooms, became safe havens for many immigrants and minority employees. They shared stories, vented frustrations, and together forged a path toward a more inclusive future. As the months turned into a new chapter, Lola's journey continued to evolve. Invitations to speak at universities, corporate events, and even TED-style conferences began to pour in. One memorable day, Lola found herself backstage on a vibrant red carpet leading to a renowned stage. The invitation to deliver a TED Talk had arrived as a surprise, a clear testament to how far her message had spread. Matteo, now growing more confident with each passing day, accompanied her to the event, offering words of encouragement and the occasional language correction when needed. Standing in the wings, Lola's heart pounded as she watched the audience, an expectant sea of faces, waiting to hear her story. The stage manager's nod signaled that it was time. Stepping into the spotlight, Lola's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the remote in her grasp. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice steadying as the initial anxiety melted away. "My name is Lola Rivera, and I'm here to talk about the power of embracing your voice, your accent, your history, and everything that makes you unique." With each word, her accent, once a target for ridicule, became a source of strength and authenticity. She recounted the painful memories of humiliation, the transformative journey that led her to create Voices of Valor, and the unwavering support of Matteo and countless strangers who found solace in her words. "Our differences," she declared passionately, "are not flaws to be hidden away. They are the very essence of our strength, the roots of our resilience." The audience leaned in, captivated by the vulnerability and raw truth in her delivery. As her talk reached its crescendo, Lola challenged everyone in the room, "I challenge you to embrace your voice in all its unique glory. When we honor our differences, we create a world where every story is valued and every person is seen. The applause that followed was thunderous, a resounding affirmation that her message had ignited hearts and inspired change on a global scale. In the weeks that followed, Lola's influence extended far beyond the confines of her former workplace. Her inbox overflowed with messages from people across the country sharing their own struggles and triumphs. Corporate boardrooms sought her counsel on building inclusive cultures, and academic institutions invited her to speak about her experiences with discrimination and resilience. Even policymakers began to take note, reaching out for her insights on creating environments where every voice was heard and respected. One evening, as Lola returned to her new, modest apartment with Mateo, she paused at the window to take in the breathtaking view of a bustling city that was slowly learning to celebrate its diversity. The familiar hum of life filled the streets below, a daily reminder of both the challenges and the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Mateo, now a confident teenager, dashed past her into his room, his excited chatter echoing through the halls. In that moment, Lola realized that every hardship had been worth it. Her journey, from a silenced immigrant to a fierce advocate for change, had just begun. Later that night, as they shared a celebratory slice of pizza in their new living room, Lola scribbled ideas in her notebook. Plans for workshops, community meetups, and even a documentary series exploring the immigrant experience across America began to take shape. Mateo listened intently as Lola outlined topics like embracing one's accent, navigating the complexities of workplace culture, and building unshakable self-confidence. Each word was a promise that their story, and the stories of so many others, would no longer be hidden in the shadows. Before bed, as Lola tucked Mateo in and whispered sweet dreams, she felt a profound sense of purpose settling over her. Their new apartment wasn't just a home, it was a launch pad for the next phase of her mission to empower and uplift her community. The future, though uncertain, shimmered with hope and possibility. The next morning, Lola found herself backstage at another speaking event, this time in front of a diverse audience at a nationally recognized conference. Her hands trembled slightly as she prepared to step onto the stage, the weight of her journey and the responsibility of her message pressing down on her. Mateo's encouraging smile flashed in her mind, and with a final deep breath, she strode into the spotlight. "Good morning," she began, her voice unwavering as she recounted her personal battles with discrimination and the transformative power of embracing one's true self. The audience listened, rapt and silent, as Lola wove a narrative that was both heart-wrenching and profoundly inspiring. She spoke of every setback and every victory with equal candor, her accent now a proud emblem of her heritage and resilience. "Our voices," she declared, "carry the power to change hearts and minds. They remind us that our stories, no matter how painful, are the foundation of our strength." By the time Lola concluded her talk, the room erupted in applause, a thunderous ovation that affirmed her journey and the impact of her words. In that moment, Lola knew that her legacy would endure through the countless lives she had touched. Mateo's proud smile, the supportive messages from strangers, and even the hesitant nods of former detractors all converged into a single, resounding truth: every voice matters. As the applause slowly faded, Lola's phone buzzed with another notification, a new message urging her to continue sharing her story and to keep fighting for justice and inclusion. The journey ahead was long, and there would undoubtedly be challenges and setbacks, but she no longer feared the future. Instead, she embraced it with open arms, her heart filled with gratitude for every twist and turn that had led her to this moment. In the quiet aftermath of the event, Lola sat alone for a moment, reflecting on how far she had come. Her voice, once a source of humiliation, had become a beacon of hope and inspiration for so many. The struggle was far from over, and the fight for true equality and respect in every corner of society would continue. But now, Lola Rivera was not just a survivor of discrimination, she was a trailblazer, an advocate, and a living testament to the transformative power of authenticity. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If Lola's story inspired you, if you believe that every voice, no matter the accent, carries a power that can change the world, then please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Your voice matters, and together, we can create a community where every story is celebrated. Stay brave, stay authentic, and I'll see you in the next video.